They're recording right now? No. What I can check. Recording. I started. Yeah.
Okay, we're started.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very pleased to welcome you guys to our first post-pandemic in-person AACE meeting. And today we have a special guest, Dr. Eugene Tian, is the chief economist at the Hawaii State Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. His office conducts research on economic issues such as tourism, emerging industries, diversification, quality of life, technology, energy, and taxation. His team also produces the official statewide short-range economic forecast on a quarterly basis and the long-range population and economic forecast every 5 years. His program collects and releases the monthly statistics on labor force, employment, job count, and visitor statistics. It is also responsible for compiling and publishing the State of Hawaii Data Book, Hawaii State Data Center, a partnership program with the U.S. Census Bureau for disseminating U.S. Census data, is also his supervision. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. Today is very good timing because today is a big day in terms of the data world. There are several data releases today, not in the financial, but first the U.S. economic forecast by 50 economic forecasting organizations released today for the whole world and U.S. I'm going to touch on that a little bit. And also locally, the University of Hawaii Economic Research Organization called UHERO, they released the economic forecast for the state today. And also, the last but not the least is from my office, we released January labor statistics data. And we also released the revised last year, 2022, labor statistics today. So those are three pieces, they all here in my presentation. So I was busy before I came here. I need to update all the numbers, although I have finished everything. The good thing is that when I did the presentation to many associations, organizations, they asked me for the file 3 days before the event. But this time I was happy you didn't ask me for the file. So I know you guys are very good in terms of technology. You shouldn't have any issues in technology. So I just brought my file here and I did enjoy the lunch. The lunch is the best ever I have had. I told Chris I was the president of the Economic Association in Hawaii for 3 years in a row, although we also have 1 year term. But I did do 3 terms in a row. And we always organize events like this, but our lunch junk. it's not as good. Let me go to the presentation. I have a lot of numbers. I hope you are not boring. This is the one I talk about, the projection by the 50 top economic forecasting organizations. They do this every month. Every month on the 10th. You see, this is March 10th. It's today. This is released this morning. So the trend you can see is the U.S., the top line economic forecast for 2022 was 2.1. It was good. And 23, 24 is going to be difficult. 1% is below the normal. The normal is about 2%. For both Hawaii and the US, economic growth at 4%, that's normal. So anything below 2 is slow. And this year is going to be slow, and next year is going to be slow. Actually, you hear a forecast saying that we will have part-time 2024. So the visitor will decrease, economic, we will have a difficulties in 2024. But our forecast, we didn't see that because the international recovery. I will go there and talk about it. But basically, 2023, you see the world, most of the economies will be slowing down, and they will be better in 2024. But it's basically we have difficulty in 23 doing better or the same in 2024, especially this year in the Euro area, the Europeans, the economy. Some countries they have a negative, and for overall Euro June is about only 0.5% increase. Then we look at the our Hawaii history. This is what I'm talking about. This is 2%. The real GDP is measured the economic growth. We have about 1.9% in the last 20 years before the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic is a recession for Hawaii. We are still recovering. Hawaii has not been recovered, but the US is fully recovered. That's why you see our people are moving. I don't know in the construction industry, but a lot of industries, people are moving to the mainland. We lost population. You see the inflation. The last 20 years, we had a 2.5. So the average is 2.5. And in 2020, we have 1.6. Then you look at 2022, last year, we had a 6.5%. The US was 8%. But the last few months, we decreased because the Fed aggressively increased the interest rate and control the inflation rate. 2023, we expect the inflation will be under control at 3.1. But when you look at the averages, 2.5 will be still higher in terms of inflation. That will impact our construction industry and also the real estate. The others, like employment rate, we were at about 3.5% last year, 2022. The average is 4.1. So this morning, we released our labor market for January. We were at 3.6%. So 3.6, we are still better than the average, but we are higher than the US. The US was 3.5%. Then the visitor arrivals, we'll talk about that in the next few slides. Our projection, the first line is population. You can see we have been losing population in the last few years, starting actually in 2018. Every year we lost population. We lost the most in 2022. So you can see we have 2021, we have 1.4 million, 1.47. Then we lost population. And we project in the future will be either flat or an increase by 0.2%, 0.3%. So in the last 20 years, our population growth is about 1%. We are not going to have that kind of growth in population. That will impact the housing demand, and because smaller population and maybe less demand, but we have a strong demand from the out of state. So the demand I'm talking about is under current market condition. Given the mortgage rate, given the housing price, how many people can afford? So our forecast for the housing demand is about 5,000 a year, 5,000. But the housing agency in the state, they project 10,000 a year. Why they project 10,000? Because they include those potential demand. They double up the parents, the children living with parents, because they couldn't afford, they don't have the down payment. And once the market, I don't know if we are going to have that kind of market. If the market price is good and the income is good, and they actually need to purchase their own homes. And also all those low-income people. So including the government housing, the private housing, we need about 10,000. Based on the current market condition, our projection is we need at most maybe 5,000. We actually don't produce that many. In terms of visitors, you can see that we in 2019 we had about 10 million visitors, about 10.3 million. We will recover by 2025 in terms of visitor arrivals. Your forecast this morning, I saw they will not recover until later, maybe never, because their projection is 24, 25 will be a decrease. So will be below 10 million. Our GDP growth, the bottom row shows that we will have about 1.7%. So this is better than the US growth rate. And next year, next few years will be around 2%, will be around the average. The reason is we are still recovering. Our economy is still recovering. The US economy is fully recovered in terms of GDP or jobs. Then in terms of the job count, there is a line called non-agricultural wage and salary jobs. Before pandemic, our job count was about 660,000. To be exact, is 658,000. And this morning we released our number is about 628. So we are still recovering, and our projection is the job recovery will come later. So will come at 2026. So it's not going to be recovered until 2026. So it's 1 year later than tourism. So we are still basically still recovering. So more data, look at the economy. This is 2022, our estimate. We have a total about 97 billion total GDP. GDP is defined as all the sales we made, subtract all the purchases we purchased from out of state. So basically we subtract imports. So all the Hawaii value added, how much is added in Hawaii? So it's about 97 billion. The largest is tourism. It's about 18.4%. Then the next one is 14.9%. The second one is real estate and rental, leasing. So this is construction related. Construction alone, we include in the classification, industry classification, we combine with mining. Mining is very small in the state. It's about 5% of the economy. So it has been pretty much stable in the last 20 years. So our contribution is about 5% to the economy. It's pretty big. Construction is important because for the year of construction, all the volume included in GDP, but not construction, either the building structure, they last 40 years, 50 years. Every year they contribute to the economy. So I think we have a bill in the governor. I think the legislature appropriated about 1 billion this year in this legislation to renovate the state facilities, state buildings. This is from general fund, which means it's from cash. So there are people asking me, oh, this, we never had this $1 billion state money to do the renovations. The highest in the history, in Hawaii's history, is about 300 million, and now it's 1 billion. That's very high. So they asked me, is it going to impact the inflation in the construction industry? Because this increases the demand, right? Economic theory says when the demand increases, the price will increase. But I said that the inflation impact is not going to be very big for several reasons. I think one is the construction industry is slowing down. Is slow. In terms of the building permit in 2022, it was slow, was negative, and the first month in January this year is negative. So construction industry basically is slowing down, especially private construction. So government should actively perform in the construction industry to help the economy to grow, because construction industry, you actually help other industries, transportation, for example, retail, wholesale, and other services. You actually even buy more energy, more electricity, water, a lot of things is supporting the construction. So that's one reason. Another reason is that is because the inflation overall is actually declining. So I have a slide to show that inflation is declining and this time increase the demand for transportation, it may not have a big impact. And thirdly, is 1 billion in comparison with the total construction dollars is about 10%. So the state total construction volume is 10 billion. So the state spending, if it is 1 billion, is about 10%. And also, most of the time, the state money, when they spend it, is not only for 1 year. It's the budget for 1 year. But when the payment made is several years, they may not be able to finish in 1 year. So let me continue. I have a lot of numbers. I hope you don't fall asleep. And this is, the state is doing good in terms of tax collection. The state, why they are allocating a lot of money for the renovation, and they also, the key for this year is affordable housing. So the state, Aloha Stadium, you think about all these, a lot of government construction project, because the state has $2 billion surplus. So 6 years from now is 12 billion. So the state total spending is 12 billion from the general fund is 12 billion from the state money. But of course, we have a lot of money from the federal as well. The state money is about 12 billion. So we have $2 billion surplus. Did everybody receive the $300 check from the state government? They are thinking about to give you another 300. But if you didn't receive the 300, don't be sad. That means you are on the top. You are on the top class. So you didn't receive that 300. But I think you may be able to receive another 300. The state has so much money. Look at this general AACE tax. So this is the indicator I use all the time because businesses normally they pay GE tax until unless they have activities. So it has been increasing 23 months in a row, and every single month is double digits, which is more than 10%. So the tax revenue, the most recent is February. So during the first month, the increase is still double digit, 12.3%. So that's an indication the economy is good. In terms of GDP, it's called gross domestic product. We actually, overall, we recovered by about 95%. It's not fully recovered. US is fully recovered, 95%. But in terms of the component, the non-tourism is recovered about 99%. And tourism is still falling behind, is about 83.5%. So visitor is still recovering, especially international tourism. The bankruptcy, we have been declining even during the pandemic. 2021, 21, 22 is declining by double digit. First 2 months of data is a little increase, but an increase from 144 cases to 146, only 2 cases. But the 2 cases represent 1.4%. But we do see some increase in the bankruptcy filings because all the federal assistance program is concluded. So during the pandemic, we get about $22 billion into the state. That helps our businesses, mostly small businesses. I think the big one like Hawaii Dredging may not get. Did you get any? So the small business get a lot of government assistance, and individual. A lot of money goes to individual workers. So that's why we see a big increase in the income, the household income. So bankruptcy fell during the pandemic. We started to see some increase. Labor market, we see the labor market is stable. Before the pandemic, the indicator is the weekly unemployment claim. When people are laid off, they first go to Labor Department to file for employment insurance. So we have data on the weekly basis. Before pandemic is about 500 a week. And now it has been in the last, almost last 12 months, it has been stable at about 500, even a little bit smaller. The most recent last week, actually the data from yesterday, I did see some increase. So last week it was about 1,400. We see some increase. I hope that is only in economics we call random walk. It's not a trend. It just it happened that week a lot of people went to the Labor Department, and when I look at the data, I don't see too many companies they have layoffs. So the state has a law when a company lay off people, they have to report to the Labor Department. I didn't see a big layoff, but what we do in the economy is a very special phenomenon. I've been working with the state as an economist for 30 years, and this is the first time I see we have high unemployment rate, 3.6%. We used to have about 2.5 or 2%. Between 2015 to 2019, Hawaii was at about 2%. And we were the second lowest in the nation. But when the pandemic started, Hawaii's unemployment rate, we were the third highest at about 25%. Michigan is number one. It's a lot of manufacturing. So they stopped in the first month, April. Then the second is Las Vegas, is Nevada. Hawaii was the third. But we still see a lot of people unemployed and looking for jobs. At the same time, businesses have hard time finding workers. So you can see we have, even the latest months we have is in November last year, we have a lot of opening. The gap in between is the vacancy, it's not filled. It's still bigger. So we have about 39,000 opening. We have 19 filled. And we still have 20,000 unfilled. So there's a lot of positions nobody take. I think there are two significant ones. One is the medical field. We call it healthcare. We need a lot of doctors, dentists. I give them a story that if you see, I have 4 wisdom teeth. I'm not as smart as before because my wisdom teeth all gone. I was fooled by a doctor was 75 to 80 years old. I was worried that maybe, you are in the construction field. You know that when people get old, maybe shaking, right? You have the screwdriver. You couldn't really get into the place. I thought this doctor may have a hard time to pull even one, but he talked to me, talk stories, asking me about the economy, and not me. I didn't even feel any pain, get off for. And he's 75. I think the youngest may be 75 to 80 years old. He gave me the pain reliever pills. I never even need to take it. He's so good. But in the medical field, we need a lot of people. We are short of doctors, dentists, even nurses. We have half of our registered nurses. They are on the mainland. And half of our doctors registered in Hawaii, they are on the mainland. They are practicing elsewhere. So we have a lot of openings in the medical field. We don't have enough applicants. My office is doing a study on the medical field, mainly what is the current status. And basically we have shortage. And we have so many people on the mainland, how do we attract them back? And why they move from Hawaii? We know one reason is cost of living. Another one is basically the tourism industry. It's not recovered, and we have a lot of people retired from the medical during the pandemic, from the medical field, from tourism. But they have openings now, they are not coming back. So even, especially tourism, they were laid off in tourism, but now they are still looking for jobs, but they are not going back to the same field. I think maybe the concerns of the COVID is still not over, and maybe they are tired. When people get laid off, they have emotions, right? they feel that maybe my value is zero. They don't see my value. Why should I work for the same employer? So I think this is the first phenomenon I've seen. We have a lot of people employed and we have a lot of openings. So that I never seen this. So I will go on and see if we have by industry. You look at these tourism related industries, it's not recovered. The top one is 100. It's compared with January 2020. That is before the pandemic. The it was hit the hardest is the accommodation, the bottom red line. And that industry now, the recovery is about 88.6%. Food services, restaurant, the recovery now is about 95.7%. But none of these industries, they haven't recovered. But overall, the tourism industry is falling behind. And non-tourism is pretty much level. And the construction industry has some, when we look at the construction industry, we always say construction industry was hit the least. But if you look at the results, it still have impact. And we didn't recover yet. So it's still below the January 2020 level. And we do have jobs in the government sector, still local government. We have a lot of openings. We couldn't find the people because during the pandemic, a lot of people retired. Every typical day in the state government, we have 12,000 people ready to be retired. That includes myself because we are at retirement age. We can go anytime. It's because it's difficult to find workers, and our administration recommend, oh, you can delay as much as possible. It's difficult to find people. That's why we have a lot of openings. I think the industry doing well is the federal. The federal is pretty much stable at about 100. Then we have some, the financial services is good. Let's continue. Look at the job number for overall 2022 compared with 2019. This is the new data we released today. Is a revision. Only two industries is below 90%. Manufacturing, we are still mostly is Honolulu County, is Honolulu, and hospitality is also Honolulu, because Neighbor Island visitor is about 85 domestic, 85 US, 15. I'm sorry, the Neighbor Island visitors is about 50-50, 50 US, 50 international. Oahu is 85 international, 15% domestic. So the international is falling behind because the Japanese recovery is only about 13% in 2022. So 13%, they are still far away. I have a slide to show that, but in most of the industries, overall, the recovery in 2022 is about 93%. But let's look at what happened in January, the data we released this morning. We are going to release February on the 23rd of this month. So we look at the construction, we are doing good in the first month in January. And we are improving because it's 95.6% total. We still have 28,000 people in jobs still lost, about 28,700 jobs compared with the pre-pandemic. We still lost those many jobs. But most of the industry, they are doing good. The hospitality, for example, now is over 93%. It was below 90 in 2022, and in January, they are doing good. I have a slide to show about the visitors. We look at the unemployment rate. We were very high during the pandemic, and now we are at about January. We were at about 3.4%. The good thing is all the counties, all the Neighbor Island counties, they are the same as Honolulu. So we are at about 3.4, and the average for the last 20 years is 4.1. In terms of unemployment rate, we are normal. In terms of unemployment claims, we are normal, but we still have more people looking for jobs, and our industries having a hard time to find workers. So that is a problem. Look at this, the weekly unemployment claim. You can see that actually the problem is on Oahu. If you look at 2019, you compare with 2022, Neighbor Island actually is pretty much recovered to the pre-pandemic level, but Oahu is still high. You look at the 2022 number is 865, while in 2019 is 746. And the first 2 weeks in 2023, we have some increase. So I think that you hear will catch it. They project, their projection released today, our projection released on March 2nd. So we have about a week difference. As we discussed before the meeting, I think every day is dynamic. Every day is different because the new development. This is given what is happening in the last few months. Yeah, this is the same slide. So let's go to construction. This is private, the volume of construction. We know we had trouble in the 2020, 2022. Our construction volume building permit was decreased. We decreased again in the first month. The first quarter, the last quarter of 22, we catch up a lot, increase a lot, especially in Honolulu County. We all know they have a backlog during the first few quarters, but the last quarter, they actually increased by 95.6%. They catch up a lot. But we still see some decrease in January, about 15.2%. So it takes about half year to 1 year between that's our estimate. I think you are in the construction industry, it may be different. We look at the building permit. We download from the county, all the county building department on a daily basis. I think you all know they have a daily bulletin, right? We download and we look at it, they have the progress. They have the, is in progress, it's in review, approved, inspection in progress, and they say completed. So we look at this, we look at those procedures, we found it's about half year to 1 year when they grant the permit until they start construction. So the building permit insurance impact the future construction. So when 2022, they have a decrease, that means 2023, it may be slow in the private. But that's not the whole story. You look at the government construction. Yeah, this is the construction jobs. We have a pretty good January. So it's pretty much stable. Look at the construction jobs, 2019 for 32,000. This is two categories. One is construction for buildings and special trade construction. So those two categories. We see some in the job count, actually, we see some increase in 2022 because the building permit in 21 is huge increase. So that impact the job in 2022. So basically during this pandemic, in terms of job count, pretty stable. But there is one thing is I don't know how many of the construction workers are union workers. Hawaii is the #1 state in the nation with the largest percentage of unionized workers. And there is a agency, they call employment agency, like RCOH. I think that maybe a lot of you know that. They hire people, they process payroll, but their worker is working elsewhere. If the construction industry have workers from that employment agency, we don't have accurate recording or classification. We classify them into the employment agency as the business services. So you see the business services have big number, but they may not. This year I introduced a bill in the legislature. I said, all the employment agency, you need to classify your workers into where they are working rather than in your business. But there are many agencies, organizations, they are against the bill. Especially this employment agency. They have association like you. They will never invite me, but they against it. So they against it. They say they don't want to. Maybe it's difficult for them. I need to listen from them. How difficult to classify them to the industry they are working rather than to where they process the payroll. And especially you look at the film industry. Film industry is under our department. A lot of workers, they are hired by the employment agency, and the payroll is processed in California. So these are construction jobs. And then look at the mainly is the residential homes. You can see 2020 statewide. 2022 is the historical. 2021 is the historical high. It's over 5,000 for that year. It's permitted. 2021 is a very special year in terms of home sales. Hawaii had about 25,000 home sales. 25,000 1 year, that's historical high. And we decreased in 2022 to about 21,000. It's still pretty high. But during that year, the home unit authorized is over 5,000. And in 2022, it decreased by below 4,000. And you can see that this is the first month in 2023 is further decrease. So which means that private construction is going to slow, especially in the residential as compared with 2021. And real estate, you can see this is the 2022 data, annual. If you look at the sales, closed sales is all double-digit decrease. Not many sales in 2022, but the median price is still increasing. And same trend for the condo. Price increasing, sales decrease. And if you look at the median sale price, the interesting is you look at the single family, there are two interesting facts. You look at single family price, Oahu, Maui, Kauai, very close, right? Similar. And Big Island is only about half. That's just one phenomenon. Second phenomenon, look at the Big Island road. The single family price, condo price is reversed. Condo price is more expensive than single family. So that, and they are similar. So Big Island is very affordable. So I do see more people from mainland, they are going there to buy properties. So if you see opportunity, Big Island has the opportunity. But if you lost money, don't blame me. This is, I think for local residents, the medical services is important. We Hawaii people are aged. We rank the seventh oldest population in addition. So our median age is high. We need a lot of medical services. I think the medical services on Big Island is, compared with Honolulu, is very low. But the first 2 months, look at the number. Now they all turn to negative. Not only the sales, but the median price is also declining for not only for Honolulu, for all the island. According to, we don't forecast the housing price, but UHERO does forecast the housing price. They forecast about 10% decrease in 2023. I think that may be accurate because the Fed is going to increase because the US economy is still very strong in terms of job growth. And there will be, I think the Fed will increase the interest rate at least 2 more times. So that means the will impact further. The mortgage rate now is over 6. That will further increase. That will increase the housing price. We see the first 2 months. You can see the price decrease below for Oahu, for Kauai is below the 1 million. Then look at the, I think the construction for the next few years will be, the start will be government construction. Other than the one I talked about, 1 billion, because the state has so much money, they want to do the facility repairs, all the state building repairs. But the government contract awarded in the last 3 years, especially last year, 2022. You see the scale here. This is in billions. It's 6 billion. It's a lot of money in last year because 2.6 billion awarded to the Big Island. I don't know if I don't think the company, the construction company is on the Big Island, but the project is for highways. It's 2.6 billion. And the federal government offer granted about 9 billion for the shipyard. But out of 9 billion, about 4 billion, we calculate, have one statistician looking at all the contract and trying to figure out what is the Hawaii portion. So she found it's about 4 billion. Is out of the 9 billion will be awarded to Hawaii companies. Although the construction is in Hawaii, even they are awarded to out of state, they may have some impact to Hawaii. They may have some part-time workers here, like the film industry has 28% of them. They are coming from the mainland, actors, actresses, directors. Those are here. They get a big pay, and they stay here for a month, and their shooting completed, and they bring all the money, but not cash though. And they went back to their home state. So we calculated the leakages, but this is Hawaii volume. It's going to be big. I think government will play a bigger role in the construction in the next few years. So this is talking about real estate. I was talking about the over 25,000 homes sold in 2022. But we do see there was 25% of them sold to out of state. Majority of them are from California. And now they are going to Big Island. So that demand is increasing in the last 2 years. So you can see it was a peak in 2010, but now the number is continuing to increase. The international was declining in the last 2 years, and 2022 is also increased. Yes.
Out of state include military?
Yeah, including the military people.
Yes,
Yeah. Let's put this way. The data we get is from land court. And the land court data, we know it's not accurate because if someone purchased from international or from the mainland, but they report it to a local, it depends on who will receive the notice. When they record it, when the land court record it, they have a notice. If the notice was sent to the homeowner or sent to the local real estate company, management company, lawyers, or their friends and relatives, that will be counted as local. So this is the definition is by the notice address. So by the notice address, I assume it will be consistent on a yearly basis. So we still see about 25% the notice is sent to out-of-state people. So that demand is still pretty strong and is coming back. So I can show you, I didn't have a slide to show the by state, but California is the majority. You can see the home sales 10 years ago and 2022. So Neighbor Island, if you look at it, the 2022, about half. Actually, overall, it's over half is about half sold to out of state. It's 50-50. It's local residents and out of state. Hawaii, for Oahu, a majority sold to local residents. But in 2022, the situation changed. It's a majority sold to local and fewer percentage sold to out of state. In terms of the international home sales, the two major, Canadians and Japanese. Japanese like to purchase property on Oahu because, as I said, it's 85% is international on Oahu. They come here, they purchase properties from Japanese, and Canadians is on Maui. There are a lot of visitors coming to Maui. So those two countries, they have about 70 to 80%, and others are small. In terms of price, out of state people, they pay the highest. Single family is about 2.9 million average. The mainlander is 1.4 million. Local residents under 1 million. I think one reason maybe the local residents, we all know how to fix it, or maybe easy for us to find the contractors. But mainlander is maybe a little difficult. Same pattern for the condo sales. So basically, foreigner purchase the top line, then the mainland local residents, usually we purchase the low end. Tourism industry, you can see the tourism, we are not fully recovered in 2022. Last year, we recovered 89%. So we are still falling behind, but the trend is pretty good. We almost have no visitors. The beginning of the pandemic, and the state has a program called Safe Travel Program. They started in October 2021. They finished in March 2022. It's because anybody come here, you need 40 hours the test. Otherwise, they won't let you to come in. So that the program helped to bring more visitors. And now we have about 12.9% more US visitors. But international is still recovering, but with the visitor industry is still recovering, but the trend is healthy. This, you can look at the trend on the top is arrivals. The 2019, we have 10.4 million. We have 2020, we have 2.7. It's mainly the first 3 months was very good. And we have some at the end of the year. 2022 will have 9.2 million. And this year, our forecast, you hear our forecast is all 9.8 million. Our forecast is 2024 will be 10.1. It's not recovered, but 25 will be. You hear our forecast, 24 will be less than 10 million, and 25 will be less than 10 million. So, but in 2022, you can see the visitor spending is 19.3 million, 19.3 billion is historical high. And why is historical high? Because of inflation. So I think I have a slide to show the inflation. In terms of visitor recovery, in January, we recovered 96.2% because of the US. You can see Kauai, Maui, and Big Island, they basically recovered. So the only island or county is not recovered is Honolulu, is Oahu. We are recovered about 89%. Then you look at the visitor composition. You look at 2019 before the pandemic, the Japanese 15.4%. 2022 Japanese is about 2.2%. It's very small, but the majority is coming from the US mainland. 67.1% in 2019, about 85% in 2022. And I have this hotel. Why the visitor spending increase so much? You can avoid, don't go to Maui. Look at the daily room rate per night. 607 a night. And Oahu is still affordable. Oahu is only 267.77. So New Island, they all increase a lot. Compared with the 2019, they increase about 50%.
Yeah.
So I think that this is one reason that the hotel industry, they have a lower occupancy rate, but they increase the room rate, the total revenue increase. We actually collect a lot of tax from the TAT, the hotel transit accommodation tax, is the hotel room tax. And you look at the number, I showed the 2019 number and 2022. So you can see the for the Japanese, it's about 1.6 million in 2019 before the pandemic. And we forecast 2025, there will be recovery from the Japanese market. And we do see some decrease. The US visitor will decrease in the next few years, starting this year, because the US economy is slowing down, is potential recession, and people will be concerned about their spending. So we will see some decrease. This is the same as you hear. We have the same view, US visitor will decrease, but our view, Japanese will significantly increase, will offset the decrease from the US mainland. But Uhiro says no, it's not going to be offset. And also, when I look at the airline schedule, we have the schedule on a weekly basis. And this schedule into the future, and we only take maybe 2 more months. Now it's March, we took up to May because they constantly revising their schedule. And you can see the US, the AACE is a supply side of the tourism. It's declining in this month, and it will be another 2 months. It will continue to decrease. But there is an increase. You can see every month from Japan is over around 300% increase. This is comparison with last year. We'll see a pretty big increase from Japanese. If you travel to Japan last year, the exchange rate 140. So $1 again, 140. And now it's about 130. I think next year, 2024, according to the forecast by the 50 forecasting organizations, next year will be 120. 120 is the normal. Now 120 will draw a lot of visitors from Japan. Now they still feel it's so expensive in Hawaii because $1 can get 140 and 130 now. So this is from the supply side of the tourism. And my last slide is the inflation. We do see the inflation is declining. Actually, since July 2022, both US and Hawaii has been declining. Hawaii, US inflation last year, 8%, Hawaii 6.5%. And for the first month of 23, Hawaii is 5.2%, and will decrease more. The US is still 6.4%. I did look at the construction costs. There are so many of them. I was thinking to include some information, but finally I decided not to, because there are so many different measures. There are measures from your company. It's the construction cost index from is RLB, and that is good. It's very nice of you. Is public available. There is another one called RS means. You have to pay 153 a month. We thought it is too expensive. The state has a lot of money, but they didn't give to my program. So 53 is a lot of money to me. Yeah, we didn't purchase. But we do also compile the construction cost index for the single family and for the high-rise building. The index were first constructed in 1946 by First Hawaiian Bank. Then when the first Housing Bank got rid of their economic department, we continued that index. But I think that definition is kind of old. And basically, we use 50% material, 50% labor. I'm not sure if that is still good. And I think for those of you in the building industry, I kind of feel it may not be accurate, but it's on the it's approximately correct. Let me give you an example. I have a good friend who is a handyman, and he does my project. He said, I will charge everybody else 3 to 1. That means the material is 1, so they add 2 more, 2 times for the total. And he said, since we are friends, we just 50-50, 1 to 1. How much you pay for the material, I charge for another 50% for labor. I think for his rule is that is 25% material, 75% for labor. But this is only for a small business. It's one handyman. For a big companies like Chris has economies of scale, and I think you will have a much smaller labor component. So my feeling is you treat everybody, your customer, like my friend treat me as 50-50. So that's, I thought maybe, but that's 1992. We still use that weight. 1992 weight is 50-50. To be exact, is for a single family is 52 material, 48% labor. For condos is 48% material, 52 labor. Because for high-rise building, you need a different. I think we have about 15 types of labor. For high-rise, you need those operators of the big machines, like cranes, all these. So you need more labor. But there are consumer producer price index for construction materials, and the Bureau of Economic Analysis, they also have the construction industry deflator, which is the price. But I think when I look at the RLB's index and look at our index for the last 3 years, we are very similar, close. I think our inflation in the construction industry is around 5%. But if you look at the BEA, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, they have about 20%. If you look at the consumer price index for commodities or durables, is about 10%. And if you look at the producer price index, is about 20%. So I see the difference is so huge, it's from 20 to 5. So I decided to let you folks figure out what it is. I try not to touch that. So I deleted that slide. I think I did see the differences, but I'm aware of those construction cost index. Thank you so much. This is my last slide.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is complicated because it's hard to say 50-50. I mean, it does average, but for example, an electrician can install probably $1,000 worth of material per hour, whereas a drywall contractor maybe can only install a couple $100 worth of material every hour.
Right.
So you have to look at the consumables, where the increases are, which trade.
Right.
Cassie has a better idea.
Well, it has to go by trade right now.
Yeah, it's trade by trade.
Just because the material inflations inflate differently across the board in terms of what kind of material are you looking at.
Right.
So like for electrical, mechanical, all those, they inflate much higher than other materials trades. So you gotta look at differently. I think in the past, 50-50, maybe 60-40 maybe is kind of the percentage, but this 3 years is hard. It's
Right,
difficult.
I,
To pinpoint exactly what is a good number or rule of thumb per se that you want to use. Okay.
I noticed the difference. I noticed the difficulty. We try to get a good measure. I will still try to get some measure on the construction cost index. We adopted that methodology from the first Hawaii, but at the beginning they had 20 surveys go to the construction companies. Now I asked my statistician, she said she get only 5. I think that is a very small sample, and it may not be a representative. Yes.
I'm just curious how the rail skewed your data ratings and whether or not you excluded or it just seems like such a high dollar project that maybe some of your numbers could be really offset by it. Are you considering it in your numbers or separating it?
Yeah, the real actually the government construction, including the state has some, but the federal government construction, they don't need a building permit. So our building permit number I showed, it doesn't include that, but that's why I showed a separate government contract awarded. But those for the rail, they have been already awarded, and it just takes years to construct it. And they already had in the plan, and for the our projection, we didn't specifically treat the rail. So we assume they will be the same as in the past. So they will not impact the construction. We look at only the new building permit issue, the new government contracted awarded. We calculate the difference, but we didn't have the real.
Any more questions? Or probably gonna check we have many people online, so is there any other person have a questions for Dr. Tian? Okay, looks we have right now. So yeah, again, thank you so much for the I'm just gonna, how I'm gonna save the recording?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know how to save the recording?
If you leave, it'll send you an email to whoever owns that TV.
I'm gonna stop.